When I was a small child, my grandmother was nurturing me at a time when I was like a little sapling, when I needed her love and her attention. It's like when you plant a seed and you nurture a tree and you water it, it grows and it grows, and then you leave for a period of time and you return to where that tree was planted and you're astonished if it's been decades and there's this enormous tree and you can't imagine that little seed that you planted has grown to be that. My grandmother lived right across the street from my parents when I was born. And so I got to live in the same town with my grandmother for the first 7 years of my life. I was her first grandchild, and she was a very affectionate, loving woman, very compassionate. My parents moved us away to a new state, to a new town when I was 14. There was a boy in that town. He was 16, I was 14. And I didn't know that sitting on the porch across the street from where we were moving in, there were a whole group of boys. I wasn't looking over there because that's embarrassing. But he was sitting over there with a whole group of boys watching us move in, and he told everybody in the group that he was going to marry me. And I thought he was pretty cute the first time I saw him. He was a year ahead of me in school, and so he went off to college, and when I was a senior, I got pregnant my senior year of high school in February, and it was a really hard time. That year was a hard year for my family. My teachers and everyone, most of the authority figures in my life thought that I should have an abortion and that I was ruining my life. My grandmother was so kind to me. She was probably the kindest person in my life at that time. Her love was unconditional. It didn't matter, what had happened. She expected the best. She loved Tim. He thought that she was the first Christian he'd ever met. She just welcomed him right into the family. And we got married 2 days after my high school graduation. And he was 18 and I was 17. I had a full ride scholarship to Kansas State University. I was valedictorian in my class. It was endowed in the 1800s for single people, and we wouldn't even think of doing such a thing at this point in time, but then it was supposed to especially encourage young women to not get married and stay in college, and here I was married. And so I lost my full ride scholarship, and it was a big scholarship. It paid for books and room and board and tuition, and it was everything, and I lost it. So when I realized I couldn't go back to school, that first semester when I was not in school, and school was something I was passionate about, and I loved school, and here I was, there was no money, there was no financial aid, I'd lost the scholarship, and I couldn't go back to school. I became really mad at God. I wouldn't have been able to tell you that I was mad at God at that time, though. I was just bitter, mulling back over what had happened, how I ended up pregnant, how I'd lost the scholarship, how I couldn't go to college. We had an amazing number of trials over the next 6 years as we were moving 6 times in 7 years. Surgeries and a life flight and car accidents, and almost every member of our family was affected by these trials, and we would be in new town after new town without anybody really knowing who we were. And so during this time, I realized I didn't have a very good root system. Like growing up on the prairie, I know that where a tree grows, there's water. And if there's no water, the tree won't grow. And I wasn't growing. I was legalistically just sitting there with this outward form of religion. You have children that are life flighted and they almost die, and your kids are being run over by cars and assaulted by gangs. And as a mother, I became very, very fearful. I couldn't even manufacture faith to believe that God could take care of my children in each of these things that were happening to them spiritually and physically and in every way. I cried out to God to just give me faith and to carry me through what I was going through, and it was so difficult. And He was there. When I think back on that little seed of faith that my grandmother planted so long ago, I never would have ever dreamt that it would take all this trial to produce growth. I think there's something about human nature. When we're comfortable, we don't grow. And when I think about the times in my life when I was not comfortable, when I had trial and difficult things were happening, that's when I grew. I need Jesus for everything. That I need Him to be strong. I need Him to know what to do. I need Him to know how to think. I need Him to know what is true and false. I need Him for the strength to get through a day or a moment or a tragedy or even a blessing. And that was essential for me to learn. So when you transplant a plant, you must immediately get water onto the roots or the plant will die. And it's crucial that you keep water. And the more water that you put in at proper times, as the plant gets stronger, you don't water all the time. You let there be periods when the roots are tested. And then that causes the roots to grow deeper, looking for water. And this is how God works with us. There have to be trials for our roots to go deep. Otherwise, we just are there and we think we're fine, and we're not fine. We're not fine at all. So as I look back at all the obstacles that I've overcome and all the trials we've come through and all the ups and all the downs that God used to cause me to grow, I really believe and I know for a fact that God causes all things to work together for good for those who love Him. And when I see what He's done, and when I look at who I am now compared to who I was then when I was that lost teenager, I am amazed. God is so good to me, and I'm so thankful for everything He's done. That's why I write the fiction I write. It's in every story. It's why I write the inspirational material, to show God's love for those who are lost and broken people like me.